Hello everybody, I hope all of y'all are having a good day today. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 18, it's written, "As for the sons of man, God tests them so that they may see for themselves that they are but beasts." And that word for beast there is for, I think it's four-legged quadrupeds or something like that. It's like for cattle, for horses, and things like that. All right? That word that they use there in Hebrew for tests means to be polished, to be chosen, and to be made bright. In the Bible, you'll see lots of examples of horses, all right? And one of the apostles, Philip, his name means lover of horses, all right? And Philip was one of the ones that asked Jesus, he said, "Show us the Father," all right? Now, if you're someone who's been in the presence of God, you've seen the Father, you've been face to face with God, all right? It is no longer you who live, but it is Christ who now lives within you. You have ascended to that higher level of consciousness, okay? So remember that. Philip's name means lover of horses, and he asked Jesus to show them the Father. Remember, Jesus said, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. The Father and I are one." Most of you guys know my testimony. For years and years, I struggled with drugs and alcohol and was just pretty much a worthless waste of oxygen, all right? I thought my life was cursed. I mean, it was not a very good, productive life, all right? And, I look back now at all the problems that I had with drugs and alcohol and having a stroke and all those things, and I'm like, I am so thankful now that all of those things happened to me, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, because if it hadn't happened the exact way that it happened, I would have never been broken. I would have never been humbled. And if I had never been broken and humbled, I would have never been chosen. I would have never I would have never heard his voice and experienced his love. I would have never become a beloved. So I was broken, and that's what I want to talk about horses today, because in order for a horse, a wild horse, all it does is eat, sleep, eat, and breed, poo and pee, all right? It really has no purpose except to live, all right? It serves no purpose for man or for anything else, but a broken horse becomes submissive, all right? And it becomes a usable servant for men, all right? And I'm from Texas, all right? And I've rode my fair share of horses. My dad and my brother have owned horses. I've had horses. And, some of the ways that they used to break horses, a lot of people just get on them, ride them, they get thrown off, and everything else. But the smart people will take horses out into a very muddy area where the mud is maybe 1.5 feet, 2 foot deep, where it's a struggle just to walk. And then they'll saddle a horse and get on him, and it's twice as hard for him to work to try to throw you off, and you can break him easier. So you take him out in that mud, and you can kind of look at the mud as the deep carnality, the deep flesh, all right? Take him out in that, and he gets wore out really fast. And after he gets wore out, he just gives up, all right? And then he becomes saddle broke. And when he becomes saddle broke, and he's good. Remember, it's written that God chooses the broken and the despised things of the world to shame the strong. And that's the way we are. We're just like horses. You have to be broken. You have to be tested, all right? And that's what God does. He tests people. The ones that he's chosen, he's going to test you, all right? And as you're being tested, you will be polished. You will be made bright. Back when I lived in Texas, my dad and my brother and I would sometimes work horseback security at football games and things like that. And a lot of times we would work alongside the sheriff's department. And the sheriff's department, they had a mounted posse too. And the way they had their horses trained, their horses had to go through this like testing ground. It was, I can't remember how long the class was, but these horses were thoroughly tested, and these horses were already broken, all right? They were already good servants, but in order to do the crowd control, they had to really go through some testing. And on graduation day, they had to take a final test, and if they failed the test, then they didn't graduate, and they would either have to go through the whole course again or they'd just quit and give up. But the last day of their testing, this final test, they would have to go through this crowd, and the horses would be surrounded on both sides, and they would have to walk down this aisle, and people were throwing firecrackers, they were throwing fake snakes in front of them and making loud noises and rattling bags. You know, horses can be very skittish. And the horses that walked all the way through, never jumping, never flinching or anything like that, just walked through like none of it affected them. I'm just here taking care of my rider. Those moved on and graduated. But it was an intense class. So whenever that horse come through and he passed that class, that was an exceptional horse. He was a viable servant. That's how we're tested too. And we go through all of that, and that way you're not affected by all the stuff going on in the world. You know, whether it's the right side of politics, the left side of politics, you're not pulled either way. None of that gets to you. Your only focus is your rider, all right, and doing what your rider, your master, is telling you to do.